Have you ever noticed that the person who stays calm in the storm always seems to come out ahead? Think about it. When everyone else is panicking, when emotions are rising, when voices are clashing, there is always one person who doesn't react, who doesn't flinch, who doesn't get swept away. That person is the one who ends up making the best decision. That person is the one others quietly respect. That person is the one who wins. And the truth is, that power is not luck. It's not some mysterious gift. It is the power of stillness. We live in a world addicted to noise. Our minds are constantly bombarded with alerts, messages, opinions, and endless demands. Most people run on autopilot, reacting without thinking, consumed by the next distraction, the next irritation, the next emotional trigger. But here's the hard reality. The more reactive you are, the less control you have. You may think you're making choices, but really you're being pulled around by the chaos of everything outside of you. And the result, regret, mistakes, lost opportunities, broken focus, a life lived by accident, not by design. But what if you could step out of that chaos? What if, instead of reacting, you chose to remain still? Stillness doesn't mean doing nothing. It doesn't mean being weak. Stillness is strength under control. It is the sharpened blade hidden in the quiet hand. When you master stillness, you master yourself. And when you master yourself, no one can outsmart you. Because while others are ruled by emotion, you are guided by clarity. While others get trapped in anger, envy, or fear, you remain steady. And that steadiness makes you powerful beyond measure. The greatest leaders, the wisest thinkers, the most resilient warriors in history, every one of them understood this secret. They knew that the calm mind always wins. They knew that victory begins not with force, but with control of the inner world. And this is where the true advantage lies. Because the moment you stop letting the outside world dictate your state, you become untouchable. People can insult you, but they cannot shake you. Life can challenge you, but it cannot break you. Problems may rise, but they cannot control you. Imagine for a moment how different your life would be if you carried this stillness with you every day. The argument that once stole your peace would no longer move you. The fear that once held you back would lose its grip. The distractions that once wasted your time would suddenly seem irrelevant. Instead of living like everyone else, reacting, chasing, stressing, you would rise above. You would act with precision, with focus, with intention. That is what stillness gives you. That is the hidden weapon of the Stoic mind. And here's the reward. When you embrace stillness, you gain clarity that most people never reach. You see things others miss. You make choices others are too clouded to recognize. You move with a quiet confidence that makes people wonder how you stay so composed when everything else is falling apart. That composure is power. That composure is freedom. Composure is what allows you to outsmart everybody else. Not by playing their games, but by refusing to be dragged into them. Stay with me because this is only the beginning. Stillness is the foundation, but there are deeper keys that will make you unshakable, unstoppable, and untouchable. If you've ever wanted to rise above the noise of the world, if you've ever wanted to unlock the strength that most people never discover, then you are about to step into something that can change your life forever. The strongest person in the room is never the one who shouts the loudest. It is the one who does not let anger decide, who does not let fear dictate, who does not let excitement cloud judgment. Emotional discipline is the difference between those who stumble and those who rise. It is the inner shield that protects your clarity, your choices, and your future. And the truth is, without it, even the sharpest mind becomes a prisoner of impulse. Think about how many times people sabotage themselves, not because they lack talent, but because they lose control in a single moment. A harsh word spoken in anger destroys a relationship. A rash decision fueled by greed erases years of progress. A choice made in fear closes the door to opportunity forever. This is how most people live. They are slaves to whatever emotion shows up. They are tossed around like leaves in the wind, powerless to stop themselves from reacting. But the one who masters emotional discipline, that person becomes unstoppable. Emotions are not enemies. They are signals. Anger points to something you value. Fear reveals where you are uncertain. Sadness shows what you care for. But signals are not commands. The mistake most people make is confusing feeling with action. Just because you feel fear doesn't mean you must run. Just because you feel anger doesn't mean you must attack. Just because you feel doubt doesn't mean you must quit. Emotional discipline gives you the pause, the breath, the power to choose differently. That pause is where freedom lives. That pause is where wisdom enters. That pause is where you separate yourself from the crowd. Psychology shows us again and again that humans are wired to react. It is survival. But survival is not mastery. Survival keeps you alive. Discipline allows you to thrive. When you learn to master your inner state, you stop living as a victim of old patterns. You stop being predictable. You stop being easy to manipulate. Think about how much control others have over you when they can push your buttons. If someone knows how to trigger your anger, they own you. If someone knows how to spark your fear, they control you. If someone knows how to flatter your ego, they can mislead you. But when you are disciplined, no one has that power. You decide when to act, how to act, and why to act. This is why emotional discipline outsmarts everyone else. While they waste energy being carried away by feelings, you conserve your energy for precision. While they burn bridges in anger, you keep your path clear. While they hesitate in fear, you move forward. While they drown in self-doubt, you rise with quiet certainty. The advantage is not small, it is everything. It is the invisible line between mediocrity and greatness, between wasted potential and fulfilled destiny. And here's the deeper truth. Emotional discipline does not numb you. It does not make you cold. It makes you stronger, kinder, sharper, because your choices come from clarity, not chaos. Imagine how different your life would be if you had complete control over the way you responded to every situation. No more regret from words you can't take back. No more opportunities lost because fear spoke louder than courage. No more sleepless nights because you let emotions drive you off course. Only steady action, only deliberate movement, only the calm confidence of someone who cannot be shaken. This is the essence of strength that people cannot understand until they live it. To be calm when the world burns, to be steady when the crowd panics, to be in command of yourself when everyone else is losing themselves. That is real power. That is the edge that makes you untouchable. And once you build it, nothing outside of you will ever control your life again. There is a moment in every life when things go wrong, when the plan falls apart, when the weight of circumstances feels too heavy to carry. Most people in that moment look for someone to blame. They point outward. They search for excuses. They give away their power by insisting that someone else or something else is responsible for their suffering. But here is the harsh truth. As long as you blame, you remain powerless. As long as you shift responsibility, you cannot grow. Blame builds walls, but responsibility builds strength. Radical responsibility is not about fault. It is about freedom. You cannot control everything that happens to you, but you can always control what you do with it. The Stoics understood this with absolute clarity. They taught that events are neutral until you give them meaning. It is not the storm that breaks you. It is the story you tell yourself about the storm. When you embrace responsibility, you take back the pen. You decide what the story will be. You decide whether the pain becomes a prison or a teacher. You decide whether the setback ends you or shapes you. Psychology confirms this truth. People who believe they have control over their lives, even in difficult situations, consistently perform better, adapt faster, and rise higher than those who see themselves as victims. This is called locus of control, and it changes everything. The external locus says, I failed because of them. The internal locus says, I failed, but I can learn, I can adapt, I can move forward. The difference between those two mindsets is the difference between a life of excuses and a life of mastery. Think of the strength that comes from this shift. Suddenly, nothing is wasted. Every challenge becomes training. Every obstacle becomes fuel. Every hardship becomes the very thing that forges your resilience. While others stay stuck waiting for the world to change, you change yourself. While others keep wishing for circumstances to get easier, you keep getting stronger. That is why responsibility is the ultimate form of empowerment. It is not about taking the blame for everything. It is about owning your response to everything. That ownership is where transformation begins. Most people will never reach this point because responsibility is heavy. It demands humility. It demands courage. It demands that you stop pointing fingers and start looking inward. But the reward is beyond measure. Because once you accept responsibility, nothing outside of you has the power to defeat you. You become the kind of person who adapts in every storm, who finds solutions where others see only problems, who rises again and again because you refuse to stay down. Imagine walking into every situation knowing that no matter what happens, you will find a way to use it. Imagine living with the confidence that even your failures cannot destroy you because they are raw material for your growth. That is the mindset of those who cannot be broken. That is the mindset of those who outsmart everyone else, not because they control the world, but because they control themselves. When you stop waiting for someone else to fix your life, when you stop hoping for the world to change in your favor, when you decide that you alone are responsible for how you rise, something inside of you awakens. It is a deep, unshakable power that cannot be stolen because it does not depend on anyone or anything outside of you. It is yours, and once you claim it, you will never live as a victim again. When life strikes hard, most people ask, why me? They see their struggles as curses, their setbacks as punishments, their pain as proof that life is unfair. But what they don't see is that the same fire that burns them is the fire that can forge them. The Stoic mind does not waste time asking, why me? It asks, how can this serve me? That single shift in perspective is the line between defeat and power. Because the truth is, nothing has meaning until you decide what it means. Pain can be the reason you give up, or it can be the reason you rise stronger. Failure can be the evidence you are not good enough, or it can be the foundation of wisdom that no success could ever teach you. Loss can be the weight that breaks your heart, or it can be the light that reminds you how precious every moment really is. Perspective changes everything. The Stoics knew that reality itself is shaped not by events, but by perception. You cannot always control the external, but you can always control the lens through which you see it. And when you control the lens, you control the outcome. Psychologists call this cognitive reframing, the ability to see situations differently and attach new meaning to them. Studies show that people who develop this skill are more resilient, more adaptive, and far more capable of achieving long-term goals. Why? Because when others collapse under the weight of hardship, they find a way to turn hardship into growth. This is not about pretending everything is good. It is about choosing to find what can be good, even when life feels impossible. Imagine walking through life with this power. The rejection that crushes someone else becomes your redirection. The delay that frustrates another person becomes your preparation. The obstacle that stops the crowd becomes your training ground. Every experience, whether joyful or painful, becomes fuel. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is lost. You rise, not in spite of difficulty, but because of it. This is the Stoic lens that transforms weakness into strength, loss into gratitude, suffering into wisdom. And the reward is not just survival. The reward is clarity. When you stop fighting against reality and start choosing how you see it, you free yourself from the prison of bitterness. You no longer walk through life weighed down by resentment or self-pity. Instead, you walk with lightness, with vision, with power. You become untouchable because no circumstance can dictate your state of mind. While others crumble because life didn't match their expectations, you adapt, you adjust, and you move forward. That adaptability is the greatest form of intelligence. The truth is, perspective is a weapon most people never learn to wield. They are so trapped in their emotions that they cannot step back to see clearly. But the one who trains this discipline, the one who learns to ask, how can this serve me, becomes undefeatable. Because even in the darkest nights, that person finds a spark. Even in the harshest winters, that person plants seeds. And even in the most painful endings, that person sees the beginning of something greater. This is not just philosophy. It is power. It is freedom. It is the choice that separates those who live weighed down by the world from those who rise above it. And when you live through this lens, nothing outside of you can ever dictate the story of your life again. Comfort is the silent trap that keeps millions from ever discovering their true strength. The human mind craves ease, predictability, safety. It wants warmth instead of cold, softness instead of struggle, escape instead of effort. But what feels safe slowly makes you weak. What feels easy quietly steals your edge. Every great soul who has ever risen above the ordinary has known this. Growth never lives in comfort. Growth hides in discomfort and challenge in the places most people avoid. The Stoics trained themselves to embrace discomfort deliberately. They wore rough clothing when they could have chosen luxury. They fasted when food was available. They reminded themselves daily that comfort is fleeting and can be taken away at any moment. Why would they do this? Because they understood that the one who practices discomfort becomes unbreakable when life delivers it unexpectedly. The one who only seeks pleasure is always at the mercy of pain. But the one who has walked into struggle by choice develops a strength that nothing external can shatter. Modern psychology proves the same truth. Resilience is not built in safety, it is forged in challenge. Studies on stress show that those who expose themselves to manageable hardships actually become stronger, more capable, and more confident than those who avoid discomfort at all costs. The muscle only grows by tearing. The mind only sharpens by testing. The spirit only hardens by enduring. And yet most people run from the very experiences that will give them power. They cling to convenience, and in doing so, they slowly drain away their own potential. Think about it. Every time you avoid discomfort, you choose weakness. When you skip the hard conversation, when you run from the hard workout, when you silence your dreams to avoid the risk of failure, you rob yourself of the very transformation that could set you free. But every time you lean into discomfort, something inside you grows. You build the discipline to keep going. You build the courage to face fear. You build the resilience to rise again when life knocks you down. Discomfort is not the enemy. It is the training ground of greatness. Imagine what your life would look like if you stopped running from it. Imagine if you welcome struggle as the tool that sharpens you. The cold shower that shocks you awake becomes a lesson in control. The hunger that growls when you fast becomes a reminder of your strength. The rejection that stings becomes fuel for deeper persistence. Every moment of discomfort becomes a deposit into your inner bank of resilience. And one day, when life brings you a storm, you will stand firm. Not because the storm is easy, but because you are ready. This is why the crowd will never outsmart the one who embraces discomfort. They avoid what you seek. They hide where you train. They break under the weight you have already carried. While they spend their lives chasing comfort and security, you quietly forge an unshakable mind, body, and spirit. And when real tests arrive, you do not collapse. You rise. The truth is simple. Comfort makes you fragile. Discomfort makes you strong. Every time you step into discomfort, you are building the foundation of a life that cannot be shaken. That is the path of the Stoic. That is a power waiting for you if you have the courage to embrace what others fear. Strength without direction is wasted. Many people work hard, push themselves, and even embrace discomfort, yet they remain scattered and frustrated. Why? Because their energy leaks into places they cannot control. They chase what cannot be changed. They fight battles that don't matter. They obsess over outcomes that were never theirs to decide. And in doing so, they drain their power and sabotage their own progress. The Stoic path is different. It demands ruthless clarity. Focus only on what is within your control and release everything else. This principle may sound simple, but it is one of the hardest disciplines to master. The human mind is addicted to control. We want people to act the way we expect. We want life to unfold the way we plan. We want recognition, approval, certainty. But so much of life will never bend to our will. People will disappoint us. Plans will break. Outcomes will shift. When your energy is tied to things you cannot influence, you suffer endlessly. But when you redirect that energy to what you can control, your actions, your attitude, your choices, you become untouchable. Psychology calls this the power of focus and agency. Research shows that those who center their efforts on controllable factors consistently outperform those who obsess over outcomes. Athletes who focus on their preparation and execution rise above those who fixate on winning alone. Entrepreneurs who focus on their daily process thrive, while those who obsess over markets and opinions collapse. The truth is, control is always smaller than you want it to be, but far greater than you think it is. Within that small circle lies every tool you need to transform your life. Imagine the freedom of no longer wasting your energy on what you cannot change. The gossip, the judgment, the unexpected failures, the twists of fate. None of it would be able to steal your peace. Instead, your energy would be poured into action, into discipline, into the choices that sharpen your future. You would become efficient, precise, powerful. While others burn themselves out chasing shadows, you would rise steadily, consistently, unshaken. That is the edge of the disciplined mind. Think about how much time you have already lost to things beyond your reach. How many hours wasted worrying about what others think? How many days poisoned by anger at things you could not undo? How many opportunities missed because you were distracted by circumstances you could not control? All of that energy could have been turned into growth, progress, mastery. The Stoics remind us that our time is too short to waste on illusions of control. Every moment matters, every choice matters, and every ounce of focus wasted is a piece of your life you will never get back. This discipline is not about apathy. It is not about doing less. It is about channeling everything you are into the place where it counts. It is about action rooted in clarity. It is about making decisions with power because you are no longer scattered across 1,000 uncontrollable outcomes. That is why this principle outsmarts everyone else. Because while the world is lost in distraction, you remain locked in on the only battlefield that matters, your own choices. Once you train this focus, you move with a calm intensity that others cannot understand. You don't waste words on what you can't change. You don't waste nights worrying about what might happen. You place your energy in the one place it can never be taken from you, your deliberate action. That is how you stop wasting your life. That is how you build the foundation of true power. That is how you rise above the noise. There is one prison more powerful than iron bars, one chain heavier than steel, and most people live inside it every single day. It is the prison of other people's opinions. From the moment we are young, we are trained to seek approval and fear rejection. We measure our worth by how many people clap for us, how many agree with us, how many accept us. And because of this, we become slaves. We bend our choices to avoid judgment. We silence our truth to avoid criticism. We hold back our potential because we fear what others will think if we fail. But the Stoic mind refuses those chains. It understands a truth that most never see. The opinions of others have no power unless you give them power. Praise does not make you greater, and criticism does not make you smaller. Both are noise, both are fleeting, both distract you from the only voice that matters, your own. When you break free from the addiction to approval, you step into a level of clarity and courage that most people will never experience. Psychology shows how destructive this need for approval can be. Social comparison drains happiness. Fear of rejection paralyzes action. The constant chase for validation rewires the brain to crave external rewards instead of internal fulfillment. And yet, the evidence also shows that those who detach from this cycle, who live aligned with their own values instead of the opinions of the crowd, experience higher confidence, greater peace, and far deeper satisfaction in life. Imagine what you could do if you no longer cared about being judged. Imagine the projects you would start, the words you would speak, the risks you would take if the fear of disapproval vanished. Most people never step into their potential because they are waiting for permission that will never come. But when you stop waiting, when you stop bending to every opinion, you unlock a strength that cannot be taken from you. You no longer chase acceptance. You create your own path. You no longer live as a shadow of who you are. You become the full expression of your truth. The crowd will always have opinions. They will criticize when you fail, and they will criticize when you succeed. They will doubt you when you start, and they will envy you when you rise. If you live by their voices, you will always be trapped. But when you train yourself to stand indifferent to both their praise and their blame, you free yourself. You gain the ability to move with precision, to act with clarity, to live with courage, because your decisions are no longer swayed by noise. Think about how powerful this makes you. While others hesitate because they are afraid of being laughed at, you move forward. While others water down their dreams to fit expectations, you rise above. While others waste their lives trying to look good, you dedicate your life to being great. That is the edge of the Stoic. That is how indifference to opinions outsmarts everyone else. Because while the world is busy performing, you are busy becoming. This freedom is not coldness. It is not arrogance. It is the purest form of strength. It is living aligned with your values, your vision, your truth. And when you finally release the need for external approval, you don't just live differently. You live fully. You rise beyond the prison of opinion, and you claim the freedom to become who you were always meant to be. When you no longer live as a prisoner of opinion, a new challenge appears. The world will still throw storms, losses, and sudden blows meant to shake you. No matter how much you prepare, life will test you with pain you did not expect and situations you cannot control. Most people crumble when this happens because they have built their lives on fragile foundations. Status, possessions, comfort, validation. Strip those things away and they collapse. But the Stoic builds something different. The Stoic builds an inner fortress. This fortress is not made of stone. It is built from values, discipline, and unshakable character. It is the recognition that everything external can be taken. Your wealth, your health, your relationships, your reputation. But the one thing no one can ever touch is the strength you build within yourself. That strength is untouchable because it is not given by the world, and therefore it cannot be taken by the world. Psychologists call this inner resilience, the ability to maintain stability even when circumstances collapse. Research shows that people who ground themselves in unchanging principles and inner values withstand stress far better than those who depend on external validation or temporary success. It is not about being numb to life. It is about building such a powerful inner core that nothing outside of you can destroy what matters most. Imagine living this way. Imagine losing possessions but never losing peace. Imagine being criticized yet never doubting your worth. Imagine facing loss but still carrying unshakable strength. This is not fantasy. This is what happens when you stop tying your identity to the shifting winds of life and anchor it deep within yourself. You stop being fragile. You stop being easy to break. You stop being vulnerable to every blow the world delivers. Most people will never build this fortress because it requires discipline and patience. It requires facing discomfort and choosing principles over convenience. But the reward is absolute freedom. When your strength comes from within, you can walk through life with a calm intensity that cannot be shaken. People may betray you, yet you remain steady. Circumstances may change, yet you remain grounded. Even in moments of chaos, you move with clarity because your foundation is unmovable. Think of how much power this gives you in a world obsessed with the external. While others chase status, you chase strength. While others lose themselves in the noise, you return to your inner stillness. While others fear losing everything, you live with the courage of someone who knows that their true wealth lies within. This inner fortress is the edge that outsmarts everyone else because it makes you impossible to manipulate, impossible to break, and impossible to defeat. The world cannot always be trusted. Circumstances cannot always be predicted. People cannot always be relied upon. But when you are rooted in your own unshakable character, none of it can steal your power. The storms will come, but they will crash against walls too strong to fall. And when the dust settles, you will still be standing, not because life was easy, but because you had the courage to build strength that no one could ever take away. The fortress within you grows stronger when you learn to face yourself with honesty. Most people live their entire lives running from their own reflection, hiding from their flaws, distracting themselves from the truth of who they are. They fill every quiet moment with noise so they don't have to confront their thoughts. They fear stillness because it forces them to see their weaknesses. But the Stoic does the opposite. The Stoic turns inward daily, not to judge, but to examine. Reflection is not punishment, it is refinement. Every day is filled with choices, and every choice leaves a mark. If you never pause to review them, you repeat mistakes blindly. If you never study your own mind, you never understand your patterns. Self-reflection is the discipline that turns experience into wisdom. Without it, life becomes a cycle of errors, regrets, and wasted time. With it, every setback becomes a lesson, every decision becomes sharper, and every day moves you closer to mastery. Modern psychology has proven the power of this practice. Journaling, reflection, and mindful self-examination improve emotional regulation, decision-making, and overall resilience. People who reflect consistently are less likely to repeat destructive behaviors, more likely to pursue meaningful goals, and far better at managing their emotions under stress. It is not magic, it is awareness. Awareness is the first step to change, and change is the foundation of transformation. Imagine ending each day with the courage to ask yourself the hard questions. Where did I waste time? Where did I let fear decide for me? Where did I act with strength, and where did I fall short? These questions may sting, but they are the keys to growth. Because when you see clearly, you cannot lie to yourself. And once you stop lying to yourself, you stop living small. Most people avoid this work because it feels uncomfortable. It is easier to point at the world than to examine the mirror. But growth demands courage, and the greatest courage is honesty. If you are brave enough to look at your own weaknesses, you are strong enough to change them. If you are disciplined enough to track your patterns, you are powerful enough to break them. This is why daily reflection separates the wise from the lost. It builds self-mastery one thought at a time. Think about the power of a life where each day builds upon the last. No repeated mistakes, no wasted lessons, no blind patterns controlling you. Instead, a steady refinement of character, a sharpening of focus, a rising clarity that compounds over time. While others stumble through life repeating the same errors, you grow sharper, stronger, and more intentional every single day. That consistency is what creates mastery. Reflection is not about perfection. It is not about tearing yourself down. It is about progress. It is about facing the truth so you can transform it. It is about having the courage to say, I can do better, and then proving it with action. This practice is not glamorous, but it is powerful. It is the invisible discipline that shapes a mind capable of greatness. And when you commit to it, you carry a light inside you that never dims, a clarity that no one can cloud, a wisdom that grows with every sunrise. You are no longer blind to your flaws, and because of that, you are no longer bound by them. You become the sculptor of your own character, chiseling away what is weak, refining what is strong, and shaping yourself into someone who cannot be shaken. When you dare to look inward with honesty, one truth becomes impossible to ignore. Your time is limited. Every reflection, every choice, every effort points toward the same reality. Life is short. Most people live as if they will never die, wasting years on distractions, carrying grudges, hesitating to chase their dreams. They put off what matters until someday, forgetting that someday is never promised. But the Stoic mind holds a weapon most people fear to touch, the remembrance of death. Memento mori, remember you will die. This awareness is not meant to darken life, but to brighten it. Death is not an enemy to be hidden from. It is the greatest teacher, the ultimate mirror, the sharpest wake-up call. When you keep death close, every moment becomes more alive. Every decision gains weight. Every breath becomes a reminder of how precious this chance truly is. Nothing motivates deeper action than the awareness that time is running out. Psychologists call this mortality salience, the realization of our finite existence. Studies reveal that when people confront the reality of death, they live with greater intention, pursue more meaningful goals, and waste far less time. Death, when remembered, does not paralyze, it clarifies. It strips away the trivial, the shallow, the meaningless, leaving only what matters. Those who deny it drift. Those who embrace it awaken. Think about how many dreams die because people assume they will have time later. How many words go unsaid? How many chances remain untouched? How many lives end with regret because people lived as if tomorrow was guaranteed? The truth is, you don't know how many days remain. None of us do. And that is why today matters more than ever. That is why now is the only time you truly own. When you live with death in mind, fear loses its grip. What can rejection do to you when you already know your days are numbered? What can failure do to you when you know every experience is temporary? What can judgment do to you when you know every critic will one day be gone as well? Remembering death is not weakness. It is liberation. It is the fire that burns away hesitation and ignites courage. Imagine living each day as if it were a gift borrowed from eternity. You would no longer waste hours on gossip, on worry, on chasing things that mean nothing. You would focus on building, on creating, on loving, on becoming. You would stop waiting and start living. The smallest moments, sunlight on your skin, laughter in your chest, the presence of someone you care for, would no longer feel ordinary. They would feel extraordinary because you would know how fragile, how fleeting, how sacred they truly are. This is the advantage of the Stoic. Most people fear death, so they run from it, and in running, they miss life. But the one who remembers, death does not run. They live fully. They live urgently. They live with a power that outsmarts hesitation, procrastination, and regret. Because when you carry the awareness of mortality, you stop waiting for the perfect moment. You create it. You stop hoping for more time. You use the time you have. And in doing so, you rise above the crowd, not because you live longer, but because you live deeper. When the reality of death awakens you, another truth becomes undeniable. Life was never meant to be lived only for yourself. The greatest emptiness comes from chasing only your own comfort, your own success, your own recognition. You can achieve everything the world tells you to desire, wealth, status, power, and still feel hollow because fulfillment is never found in what you keep. It is found in what you give. The Stoic mind understood this deeply. To live well is to live beyond yourself. To rise is to lift others as you climb. Service is not weakness. It is strength in its highest form. It is the recognition that your life has meaning only when it contributes to something larger than your own ego. And this contribution does not always require grand acts or worldwide impact. It lives in the small choices, the daily discipline of living with integrity, the courage to use your gifts in ways that benefit not just you, but those around you. Every action that elevates others elevates you. Every step you take for the greater good strengthens your own soul. Psychology confirms this truth. Studies on purpose and meaning show that people who dedicate their lives to serving something greater than themselves experience higher levels of happiness, resilience, and even physical health. The brain is wired to find reward not in selfishness, but in contribution. Self-centered living may provide temporary pleasure, but it never delivers lasting fulfillment. Only service can do that because service connects you to something eternal, something that continues long after you are gone. Think about how powerful it feels to know that your life matters, not because of what you consume, but because of what you create. Imagine the strength of walking through the world with the awareness that your existence makes others stronger, that your choices light the way for those who come after you. This is the kind of fulfillment that cannot be bought, cannot be faked, cannot be taken away. It is earned only through service. Most people never discover this because they are trapped in the endless chase for more comfort, more attention, more wealth. And yet, the more they take, the emptier they feel. They miss the truth that the human spirit is designed to expand through giving, not hoarding. That the measure of a life is not how much it collects, but how much it contributes. The Stoics knew that the path to greatness was never selfish. It was always rooted in service, in justice, in living for something higher than the self. When you live this way, you outsmart the emptiness that consumes so many. While others chase fleeting rewards, you build lasting impact. While others waste their strength on shallow pursuits, you invest your strength in creating something meaningful. While others are forgotten as soon as they are gone, you leave behind a legacy that echoes through the lives you touched. And here lies the deepest power. Service is not just about others. It transforms you. It shapes your character, deepens your resilience, and strengthens your spirit. It gives you a reason to rise when life is hard, a reason to push beyond fear, a reason to live with courage, because when your life is tied to something greater than yourself, no obstacle can defeat you. You are no longer living small. You are no longer living for the temporary. You are living for what endures, and in that, you find a power the world cannot take away. When you devote yourself to something greater than your own comfort, you begin to see how little control you truly have over the world. The weather shifts, economies rise and fall, people change their minds, betray, leave, or disappoint. Circumstances beyond your reach disrupt the plans you once thought were solid. And yet there is one realm of absolute control that no one can ever take from you, your own mind. The Stoics built their strength on this truth. You cannot command the storm, but you can command yourself. The mind is the fortress. It is where freedom lives or dies. Most people surrender this fortress without realizing it. They hand their peace to anger, their focus to distractions, their happiness to the opinions of strangers. They allow the external world to dictate their internal state, and in doing so, they live as prisoners, even when no chains are visible. But the one who trains the mind, the one who learns to rule their inner world, cannot be conquered. Psychology affirms this with clarity. Cognitive behavioral therapy, one of the most effective forms of modern treatment, is rooted in the Stoic idea that it is not events themselves that disturb us, but our interpretation of them. Two people can face the same setback, yet one collapses while the other grows stronger. The difference is not in the event, it is in the mind. Your perspective is the gatekeeper of your resilience, your response the architect of your strength. Imagine how powerful your life becomes when you stop trying to control what lies outside your reach and focus only on what you command. Your thoughts, your actions, your character. That is where your power lies. That is where freedom lives. When insults come, you choose whether they pierce you or pass through you. When failure strikes, you choose whether it defines you or refines you. When uncertainty surrounds you, you choose whether to panic or to stand firm. This choice belongs only to you. The world cannot rob you of this control unless you give it away. And that is why the disciplined mind is unshakable. It is not that life is easier for such a person. It is that they refuse to surrender their strength to what they cannot control. They conserve their energy for what they can shape. And in doing so, they waste nothing. Every ounce of effort is directed toward growth, toward virtue, toward progress. Most people exhaust themselves fighting battles they cannot win, resenting the past, resisting the inevitable, demanding fairness from a world that has never promised it. But when you master your mind, you no longer need the world to cooperate. You are no longer chained to outcomes, no longer dependent on perfect conditions. Your peace comes from within, your strength rises from within, your freedom is secured from within. This is what makes you unshakable in a world that trembles. Others will look to you and wonder why you remain calm in chaos, why you remain steady when everything else collapses. They will not understand that you have built a fortress inside yourself that no storm can break. And this fortress is what allows you to walk through life with confidence, with clarity, with courage, because once you rule your mind, you rule your world. The fortress of the mind grows stronger when it is tested, and nothing tests it more than adversity. Life will bring pain. It will bring loss, failure, and betrayal. No one escapes it. But most people collapse under hardship because they believe suffering is an enemy. They spend their energy resisting what cannot be resisted, wishing away what cannot be undone. The Stoic sees differently. The Stoic sees adversity not as punishment, but as training. Pain is the weight that builds strength. Struggle is the fire that forges character. Every difficulty contains within it a lesson, but only those willing to endure it can see it. If you avoid discomfort at all costs, you remain fragile, unprepared, easily broken. But when you embrace adversity as a teacher, you transform it into power. Psychology supports this. Research on post-traumatic growth reveals that people who face hardship with the right mindset often emerge more resilient, more purposeful, and more grateful than before. Struggle does not have to destroy you. It can reshape you into something greater than you were. Think about it. Your greatest growth has never come from ease. Ease makes you comfortable, but it does not make you strong. Ease makes you soft, but it does not make you unshakable. Only challenge does that only the days you thought you couldn't survive, but did. Only the nights you carried unbearable weight and still rose again in the morning. Those moments etched resilience into your soul. Those scars became proof that you are tougher than you believed. The truth is, hardship strips away illusions. It reveals what you are truly made of. While others crumble, you have the chance to rise. While others use pain as an excuse, you can use it as a foundation. Pain refines your patience, sharpens your focus, and deepens your appreciation for what matters. Adversity makes the shallow crumble, but makes the discipline unstoppable. When life hits you, you are faced with a choice. You can ask, why me? And remain a victim. Or you can ask, what is this here to teach me? And become a victor. One mindset drains you, the other transforms you. And once you train yourself to see adversity as a gift in disguise, nothing can truly defeat you. Because no matter what comes, you will find strength within it. Most people spend their lives trying to avoid pain, but the Stoic knows that pain is not the end, it is the path. Every difficulty you endure with courage builds a resilience that others cannot understand. Every challenge you accept becomes fuel for wisdom, for discipline, for inner power. This is why hardship is not to be feared, but embraced. Because once you learn to endure, you learn to overcome. And once you learn to overcome, you learn to thrive. So let adversity come. Let life test you. Do not wish it away, for it is shaping you into someone stronger, wiser, and more capable than you were yesterday. When you face hardship with courage, you rise above the fragile masses. You outsmart defeat itself. You carry within you a power that no obstacle, no failure, no storm can destroy. Adversity strengthens you, but only if you meet it with discipline. Without discipline, pain turns into bitterness. Without discipline, lessons dissolve into excuses. Discipline is the bridge between intention and reality, the force that transforms potential into power. Most people dream, most people talk, most people want, but very few act with the consistency required to become unshakable. The Stoic knows that discipline is not just a habit, it is freedom. Because when you rule yourself, no one else can rule you. Discipline is not about punishment. It is about alignment. It is the act of aligning your actions with your deepest values again and again until your life reflects who you truly are. It is choosing long-term strength over short-term comfort. It is training your body to follow your mind and your mind to follow your principles. Without it, you are a slave to impulse. With it, you are a master of yourself. Science proves this truth. Studies on self-control consistently show that disciplined people are not only more successful, but also happier, healthier, and more resilient. Discipline reduces stress because it removes chaos. It increases confidence because it builds trust in yourself. It deepens fulfillment because it ensures your energy is invested where it truly matters. What most people mistake as restriction is actually liberation. To live without discipline is to live chained to every temptation. To live with discipline is to live free. Think about what happens when you lack discipline. You promise yourself change, but repeat the same patterns. You set goals, but abandon them when they demand effort. You chase comfort, but comfort turns into regret. The undisciplined life looks easy at first, but it always costs more in the end. Regret weighs heavier than discipline ever will. And that is why those who embrace discipline gain an advantage others cannot. They endure the small discomfort now to avoid the crushing pain later. Every day offers you a choice to act on impulse or to act on principle. Discipline is the force that keeps you steady when your emotions try to sway you. It is what allows you to rise early when your body begs for sleep, to persist when your mind whispers to quit, to speak truth when fear tells you to stay silent. Each act of discipline is a declaration of strength, a reminder that you are in control of your path. The beauty of discipline is that it compounds. One disciplined choice builds momentum for the next. One day of action builds trust for tomorrow. Over time, what was once difficult becomes natural. What was once heavy becomes light. This is why discipline separates the ordinary from the extraordinary. Most people wait for motivation, but the disciplined do not wait. They act. And because they act, they create results that others only dream about. Discipline is the armor that protects you from weakness, the compass that keeps you on course, the fire that sharpens your character. It is the daily proof that you can trust yourself to follow through. And once you trust yourself, you no longer fear the world. You become reliable, steady, unshakable. While others scatter, distracted, and inconsistent, you move forward with quiet power. Because discipline is not just what you do, it is who you become, and who you become determines everything.